Welcome, welcome everyone. It is time again for the stream. Hello. What you see on screen before you is a porn game that I have been recommended and that I might be about to recommend to you. Because apparently, the porn part of it is not the interesting part. Now, I haven't watched this video, I've watched little snippets of it, but let's see what they're all talking about, shall we?
When players change a game's genre, the game begins with a beautiful anime girl waking you up. It's an adult survival game where the protagonist, stranded on a deserted island, has to survive together with her. To stay alive, players can gather resources, fish, craft, and build. Basically everything you'd expect from a survival loop. But here's the catch. The side content was too good. Even though the main focus was the adult stuff, players quickly realized that the survival mechanics were actually insane. Gathering had its own gear and rank progression. Fishing even had different bait types and realistic mechanics. But what really stole the show was the building system. It wasn't just click to build prefab houses. It worked like The Sims. You could set the size and shape yourself, decorate the walls, lighting and
Oh yeah, well the performance clearly suffered a bit, but still it is impressive.
interiors freely, and even use the furniture you placed. Players got addicted. They spent days just building and customizing their base.
At 4 frames per second. Still impressive though.
Soon, the community turned into a building showcase, and the adult part of the game was left completely behind. Eventually, some players even locked the girl in a bunker because she kept getting in the way of their construction projects.
Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, it's not a bad business model, I guess. You start off with the bait, and then you weave in actual gameplay. Incredible.
It was not the bait you would expect.
The what is it about pornography driving every fucking industry? They put her in the jar because she got in the way. Jada, you shut the fuck up. Don't say that again. When a porn game puts more effort in the survival aspect than 99% of survival games. Yeah, Jada. Well, they probably had years to develop it, to be fair.
The titty is the hook. Everything else, that's the real bait.
Mm-hmm. Triple Child Unaliver says no time for poon, only time for bass. That sounds like
really.
It sounds like a musician, but no, he means base building. I mean, it's they baited it in with, hey, men, come and play sex. And then they finish it off with, hey, everyone, come and play The Sims. Ghost, that's the thing about this video. I have no idea what the game is called. They didn't say.
Finally, The Sims for men.
I mean, in porn games, aren't you, like, going from base to base anyways?
I see what you did there. I see what you did. Does that work in your native language, Nomon, or is that something that I can congratulate your knowledge of English for?
I don't think that works in my native tongue now.
Triple says, quote, no, lady, I don't have the time to fuck you. I have to build a mega pool in my lobby. Yeah, fucking gaming goals. There you go. Wolf says the survival elements are nothing special. Wolf has apparently played the game. Wolf, do you care to comment on how you were initially hooked in to play it in the first place? What brought your attention to the product in the first place, Wolf? Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the stream. I feel like I had an update. Oh yeah, yesterday, after the stream, we were going to watch Gladiator after the stream, but it was too late and I asked everyone in a poll, everyone voted, let's postpone it until another day. We might do that today. We may have a shorter stream today and then do Gladiator immediately afterwards. So if we, and I already delayed today's stream by about half an hour because of an impromptu event in Cabal. But if we do that, we'll probably do a 3-hour, maybe even a 2.5-hour event and then watch Gladiator afterwards. So stick around to the end of the stream if you want to watch it. I've never seen it before, and I expected more people in Cabal would have seen it before, but apparently a few other people haven't either. So we'll do that. Yeah. All good. There's an issue with the scaling there. Not sure what's caused that, but we'll look into it later. Anyway, more fucking memes, eh? Hello, Aiden. Yes. Useful data, you'll like this, Aiden. Average age of moving out of your parents' house. Now, there are some surprising figures here. You got 45 and 46 in France and Germany. That's quite old. I mean, things are bad these days. You got 48 in Spain, 55 in Italy. My goodness, things are not good over there. 32 in the UK is a bit more reasonable. It's still not good, is it? And then you've got a few kind of outliers. You got 29 in Russia, which is quite high. You got 18 in Turkey. That sounds about right. You got Poland 16. That's very young. It's impressive. And then you have 2 in Ireland, crawling out of home, going to get a job in the potato mines, I guess. 10 in Croatia. There you go. I think that's Croatia. You got 2 in both, I think that's Slovenia and Lithuania. You got 4 in Belarus. 7 in Ukraine. That one might be accurate, actually. You got 8 in Norway. 8-year-olds in Norway regularly living there. That's just the average age, of course. Anyone older than that, there's also balanced by people younger than that. So yeah, and you got a few places where people are leaving the home at the age of 1. I don't know the names of any of these countries, but they exist. You got this one down here next to Greece. I don't know what that's called. And you got this one up here next to Ukraine. I don't know what that's called either. All those Balkan countries could all be the same to me. Don't tell Bright I said that. He's a Croatianist. Yeah, but 1 year old. It's quite a few impressive numbers here. Had you seen this datums is, Aiden? Were you aware of this? It's quite impressive. North Macedonia, Statibo. Yeah, 1 year old. It's impressive. I mean, the distinction, I mean, the East, this is why Eastern Europe will win. Because look at how young they're getting into the mines. I mean, into the workplace over there in Eastern Europe. And 55 in Italy. Come on, it's ridiculous. The children yearn for them. Exactly. This is what we've been saying for a long time. Yeah, I don't know what what was going on here. I think this is just a joke. I don't know if there's any correlation because some of these numbers are probably true. 18 in Turkey is not that unreasonable, but what I have noticed is that there's nothing between 18 and 29. I think nothing or almost nothing between those two numbers, which is the region in which you'd expect the most, like most of these to actually be. I expect that is the range in which most of them actually are, but there's nothing in that range. It's all either drastically too low or drastically too high. Oddly, Russia, Turkey, and the UK are not too far off being reasonable numbers. Fucking Spain and Italy. It was presented to me without context and I passed it on without anything added. Yes, I did see that it was you that posted it, Daddy Bill. I appreciate it. I have no idea why someone made this, but I do find it funny, so thank you. Yes, I know. I'm just saying closer to reasonable, Aiden. Under 18 is maybe a bit low, but once you get over 18, the longer you go, the less reasonable it becomes. Yeah. Clover moved out. All the women saying they moved out at 18. Oh yeah? Oh yeah, was that really difficult for you as women? I'm kidding, you probably did. You probably had a real reason. I've just noticed, I noticed earlier, that the combination of Poland and that little bit of Russia looks like Harambe wearing a yarmulke. Give yourself a moment, you'll see it. Am I correct, Chad? Am I right here? I am right, aren't I? It's Harambe wearing a yarmulke. Press 1 if I'm right. Press 1 if you see it. None of you see my vision. None of you see the vision. Well, I guess we'll have to wait longer to revive Harambe then. I see it, but I refuse to acknowledge it. Says Aiden. I do see it, says no one. Good. Someone sees it, but that is deranged. Yes, but... Thank you, chat. All right, to the two people that saw it, I am going to do the following. Yarmulke. I don't know if that's the right spelling.
So I just now joined the stream and immediately joined to Oozly having just laughed at something presumably funny. So what have I missed?
If you see here Poland and that little bit of Russia, it looks like Harambe in a yarmulke.
No, it doesn't. What the fuck are you on about?
Yes, it does. Yes, it fucking does. Don't you
If I take off my glasses, I kind of see it.
They're in the land, they're in the land, they're in the land.
They're in the land.
It's true. You're denying it because you fear the truth.
No, well, I do appreciate how you take my side on all the most important things. The things on which we are right, the entire rest of the world is wrong. For example, that Fairy Tail is the best anime and that is fucking Harambe and Iyamulka right there.
That is Harambe, yeah.
There you go. Well, I gave both Nomon and Aiden some Cabal credit for correctly noticing.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, that's not far off. I think maybe I'm imagining the nose being a bit more upright of Harambe. By the way, yeah, that's not far off, Wolf. And it doesn't look that much like a Iyamulka, but I think the fact that it doesn't come down the head very much makes it look more like a Iyamulka, even though the top is all kind of knobbly. So yeah, chat, I expect you all have your penises out in real life right now because it's Harambe. Dick's out for Harambe. Mine's been out the whole time. Anyway. Yeah, Ginger, the more interesting thing really is the graph itself, which, as you can see, is maybe slightly inaccurate.
Yeah, I was about to say, the average age for people moving out of Lithuania being 2?
And don't forget, this country down here and this country here, within a year of birth, they're out on the streets.
The country in which either the children never move out of their childhood home, or alternatively, when they are born, they have already moved out.
Well, there's none on here that say 0, mercifully. But there are several ones.
No. Look just above where Greece is, where the 1 is, and then look ever so slightly up until
I
the left
know.
of the 1.
I did see that, but I assume that the size and the shape of the country is just a little bit too small to put a number on it, rather than assuming it means 0. But maybe it does. I mean, you've got fucking this isn't Liechtenstein. This is Luxembourg. That doesn't have a number either. So are you saying that in Luxembourg and in whatever country that is, they never go to their parents' house after being born? They're just put on the street outside of it.
It's Bulgaria, by the way.
If it was a 0, that would indicate that they move out of their parents' house at the moment of birth. But it's not a 0. It's a null value, which means, at the very least, in the logic that I am assuming here,
sorry, wrong Bulgaria.
That means that they are ejected from the parent's household at a time that is incongruent with the continuity of a human lifespan.
Next meme. Major news. This one's real. Major news sites are seeing huge drops in traffic. You have here CNBC is one of the only ones with a very small increase. All the rest of them are way down. BBC, New York Times, -13, -7. MSN, -17. Fox News, -25%. CNN, -34%. Forbes, -52%. Incredible. What's the only one that's gone up by a significant amount? Substack, +47%. Why? Because it's community-oriented, community-directed, user-generated content news. This is one of the best pieces of direct data that I have seen that demonstrates that the mainstream press is obsolete. Now, we all kind of knew this, and Substack is not like everything on there's gold, and they don't do exactly the same job as the mainstream news, the corporate news, but it's close enough, and it's enough of a difference that I think this does indicate the mainstream or corporate press is more obsolete than ever. And it's only going to continue, one hopes. Forbes is a massive drop, though, and maybe Forbes is one of the first ones that I found out was like majority Chinese owned. So I wonder if that's a factor there. Aiden, I'm sure you have thoughts on this. I can see you typing already. Ginger was struck by incredulous stupefaction when I pointed out Harambe and Iyamulka. Aiden says, I don't know, I read a lot of political substacks and I wouldn't describe any of them as news, so I wasn't on just. Well, fair enough. Maybe some of them are. Isn't Kramer a contributor to Forbes? No, that'd be interesting. What's the inverse Forbes? Just read Forbes and assume the truth is the opposite of what they've said. Well, that's not a bad idea, actually. Yes, I have that story. I meant to go over it last stream. I had loads of stuff from last stream that we have to go over this stream. And I have loads more this stream. I've got more this stream than I did last stream. But what I had this stream is mostly smaller stories, but still a lot very interesting ones. So we'll get to that soon. Next thing, memories. Right, this is from years ago. This is from 6 years ago, from 2019. But it's become relevant once again because the White House sent a letter to the Honorable Nancy Pelosi years ago, which was talking about the State of the Union and about stuff in Congress, about Christmas and all that stuff. But notably, the first letter of each line spells out, "Fuck you, cunt." Was this real? I can believe it. I don't remember specifically this happening. It may have done. I may have covered this. I don't remember it. Maybe this was fake. I don't know. It's funny anyway. But she's, as we covered last stream, she has now retired. And I have a feeling that her stocks won't be doing quite as well when she no longer has the inside track, shall we say. Someone says, I think Pelosi is only retiring because she realized Inverse Kramer does better than her insider trading. Yeah, she can just tie whatever she's doing to Inverse Kramer and she can benefit from the insider trading from him without needing to do it herself. No problem at all. So yeah, I'm not sure if this is real, but it could be. And it's become appropriate once again. Ah, yes. Wolf, what was the... the EBT thing. JDDT, Hungerstruck, live at dinner plate. This is for the EBT thing, which it looks like I was right. There was no major rioting as far as I know. Maybe a bunch of isolated theft incidents, unless I missed it. Let me know if I missed it. JDDT, JD Vance, Donald Trump, Hungerstruck. This is based on an AC/DC album, hence the design. And then you got the songs on the back, Golden Age Cabal Records. I appreciate that. Is that the one that Enigmatic used? I can't remember, because that's Golden Age Cabal Records. It's not something official to me, and if you want to use it, maybe ask Enigmatic, because I think it was him that used that. I might be wrong though. So the tracks are as follows: Hungerstruck, Back in Snap, Turkey Roll, Ain't Food Pollution. I guess these are based on the original AC/DC album's songs. Whole lot of roasties, Give me a buffet, What do you do for food stamps, honey? EBT, Giving the monkey a banana. I wonder what that one means. Burnt down in flames, and Freeway to Walmart. You got a real genuine photo of JD Vance there, and then Trump just doing what he normally does. Not for resale, not edible. Recorded live in a nearby Discord server whilst furiously mocking Wes Wylev. And who? What fails, Cabal prevails. Contact us at cabal.racism.africa. Thank you, Wolf, and any collaborators, if there were any. Thank you, that's very good. Put this in Cabal Shrine, if you haven't already.
Initial inspiration for this.
Yeah, that rings a bell. Yeah, that's pretty good. I can't say at the moment. I'll just say this. In case anyone is interested, because he's become very relevant over time. Wes and his small shrinking community still cover everything we say and do in Cabal. They talk about us every day. I know they do. Yes, I have checked. Anyway, next up. If you don't believe me, that's fine, but they do. I do not censor myself. I do not use TikTok speak. I do not say unalive. I say slurs, and if I get reported, I get banned. Eternally, infinitely fucking based. Your account is less valuable than your free expression. Put it that way. Not much more to add. I love this meme format. I want to see more of this meme format. Aiden says, but calling yourself based is cringe. So you're saying that I do this thing and thus, thank you. Don't call me cringe though. I am based for doing this. And it's not cringe to do that because it's based, because I'm based. Clover says, oh, bless Wessy's heart. Error 404 not found. Oh well, if he didn't have one, maybe he'd think with his head every now and again. Next up, Mayor of Beijing, PhD in engineering, 30 years rising through the ranks of the People's Bank of China, and 7 years experience of deputy mayor. Mayor of New York City, undergrad in African studies, first job, New York City mayor. Yeah, not great. I will say as a point of nuance, right? And I'm not going to defend Mamdani for a second. That is appalling, and he got in, whether through rigging or not, through unjust means. I am pretty sure. I mean, New York is filled with Democrat voters either way, but what with the known prevalence of rigging in the US and gerrymandering, I'm not sure how much of that there is in New York, and possibly other methods too, I wouldn't be surprised if he wouldn't actually have won in a fair election. But I'm not sticking to that solidly. Either way, point is, oh, look, China's done really well. They've got this great process for merit for their mayors, and perhaps they have. You know, the money that we've been exfiltrating from the West has been mostly going to former shitholes like China and India and many other third world countries who really haven't done enough to earn it over time, but they've used it fairly well. They've used their ill-gotten gains fairly well to improve their own nations. And they have high standards for many things there. It is commendable in a way what they've done. The way they've done it is disgusting and needs to be stopped, but it is commendable what they've achieved. However, some issues with this, as if to say that someone having qualifications and experience is automatically the better idea for a politician. 30 years in the Bank of China, which is the one directly locked into the state infrastructure. That guy's never stepping out of line. Never. So at a time when one might need to, at a time when innovative thinking or contest of some kind may be required, he won't do it. 7 years experience as deputy mayor, so he knows the system. Wait, so he knows the system? Yeah, it means he knows how to play the system. He knows how to embezzle and launder and cheat people and get around things. So that's why we have term limits as well. Even if a politician's really popular, like Pelosi, then the longer they're in office, the longer they can learn the systems and just learn to vegetate there with the minimum energy. It's why you have to keep things moving. PhD in engineering. What does engineering have to do with running a fucking city? I mean, yeah, a few things, but it's more social engineering, which is not what engineering's about. So they're bigging up Beijing here, but I'm not particularly impressed with that method. China and Asian countries, as far as I understand it, and please someone correct me here if I get this wrong, they're more collectivist. That's quite obvious, but they're also much more conformist. So you'll get people who are well qualified, well installed, well integrated, all that stuff, and they'll get into positions, but they'll never step out of line. And sometimes it's good to step out of line because sometimes the line is fucking wrong. The party line is sometimes fucking wrong. So you need a society which will churn a bit, fight internally a bit, compete. The West uniquely does that. There are other countries that just do that, which is too far. You need a balance of coherence and conflict. The West is the uniquely best for that balance, as far as I know. Thank you, Nachos, for a very generous contribution. She says, happy overlay, JF voice. Whoever made it, thank you. Cabal prevails. You faggots are my kind of niggers. Right, let me do that then. Last stream, a valued member of the community made this. This is a new overlay to put on my head during the stream. So we're gonna equip it. If you give me a moment. What was this? Nope, that's the previous one. Let's get this onto my stream then. All right. Hello, happy. I believe the word the Zoomers are using for this kind of on-stream modification is scuffed, but if it works, it works. There we go. Happy deployed. The happy has been deployed. 1 sec. There we go. There we go. Nachos, press 1 if that is exactly what you wanted. Let me go ahead and put this on the list here. Happy 50 and done. Now, if I go to this and refresh, you'll see happy has been added as a new overlay and at the $50 mark. If anyone wants to override this overlay, 35 quid on none. We'll put none above happy or 50 on anything else. So there you go. Nippon is Zuzu's favorite fairy tale character. Not true. Not true. He's not the worst, actually. Nomon, who's the worst? The worst single character. The BJG are 3 characters, and they are not the worst anything. They're fantastic. Actually, I'm not sure who I'd say is the worst single character. But who do you think it is, Nomon? I mean, like, from official arcs and not Edalus, because that's too easy. Who is the most annoying? Who is the worst? The character you'd most like to remove, if you could, from Fairy Tail, without the deficit of being in a bad arc? Who would it be? I might want to rejig the design of Master Bob, to be honest. Maybe. Oh, Hibiki's a pedophile, isn't he? there was that one scene where, Lizana. Lizana's not a bad character. She's just really badly used. Nacho says, don't forget the JF voice. Yes, did you want me to do that for a particular article or just for now ongoing? HFH says, put the autism hat on the cat's head. You know what? I suppose we can do that. I suppose we can do that. Now is good. She says, all right, one sec. HF and H, you have contributed to enable the act. There we go. Let me find the ad. Okay, give me a second here. You cannot read the text. Good enough, I guess. Okay. That is the best I can do at this time. I'm glad you like it, Edin Paladin. Nachos even likes it. Hello, Lady Edin. I see you have admitted the taxonomical categorization of your biological form as a bird. I'm glad we are on the same page here. I killed my wife. I'm sorry, Miss Paladin, but your IQ is just far too high for me to wish to make children with you. I would have to kill you before making them, and what would be the point of that? Then I cannot steal the chickens for my own services. No! Ginger, you're wrong. Ichi and Mystigan are 2 of the best characters. You're wrong! Yeah, okay. They didn't use him well enough. Yeah. Oh, he just decided in mockery of you. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, I wish they'd done more with Mystigan. I wish they'd handled his honor better. Many things, but that doesn't make the characters bad. Who's the worst character? The only one coming to mind is Master Bob, to be honest. Lady Edin is requesting to be raptured. Well, Edin, I don't know how successful that would be for you. Do you really believe? One must ask. Don't forget, you can lie to us, but you cannot lie to himself, the God, one divine Jesus, baby. The Cabal community now appears to be supporting Edin XJF. Let's make it happen. All the other women who have left me for one reason or another, all loved being with me. What's the problem? I definitely did not kill any of them. They disappeared on purpose just to hurt my kill streak. I mean, my baby streak. Oh, it looks a bit like Joy. But not halfway between fat and not fat. I don't know. It might, maybe it's alt, like Endless Joy, but it does look like Joy. Lady Edin Paladin says, no, I am a potato and I used to talk to him. I am at extreme risk. Wouldn't you like a nice helping, a nice big spoonful of premium French sperm? Wouldn't anyone? Fucking unnamed member. Thank you, Ginger. Ginger, I'm not sure it's quite fair if he doesn't have a fucking name. Lady Paladin is running scared. That is not uncommon for women who are eventually impregnate. Nachos is just loving it. Sato and Gate. Oh, Gato? Where are they from? No, Mom. Are they from one of the movies? I don't recognize their names. Gato and Gato. They're not the Vanished twins, are they? I always forget their names. They do sound familiar, actually. Oh, yeah, the monkey guild. They're annoying, but they're not terrible characters. I mean, I guess. Anyway, shall we continue? Oh, look, Lady Aideen once again posting a picture of her. You can tell it's her because the color palette is close enough. The only issue with that picture is the lack of exorbitant alcohol consumption. Same haircut as your avatar. What is this DM from Lady Aideen Paladin? It says, oh, JF, I would love some of your French sperm. Oh, well, I'm only sorry that I accidentally read it out in front of the public. She says ONG, which means on God, confirming that this is what she actually said and meant. I did not misread it. Do not lie about me. I would never lie about her. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Breaking, Zoran Mamdani received over $37 million from Soros-funded organizations. My chat will now press 1 if they are overwhelmed with shock. Breaking! This swastika sign found in New York after Mamdani's election was painted by, get ready with your shock once again, an Orthodox Jew. Oh, really?
Oh, it's anti-Semitic for you to say that.
Mm-hmm.
How could you insinuate such a thing? We are always the victims. For that, I'm docking you 6 gorillion social credit score.
Are you sure? I think it may have been more like 270,000 social credit score.
Don't question the numbers, Goyim.
Edin inquires, who is it worse to take money from, Soros or Epstein? Now, as JF, I did in fact take money from Epstein, but I had no idea at the time that he was a pedophile. As a murderer myself, I draw the line somewhere. Next up. Yeah. I don't know if this is real. I didn't know if the Ben Shapiro one was either, but it might be. $230 million Donald Trump received from IPAC, apparently. It could be true. That's not the majority of what he got, but it's a lot. And that might be over the entire course of his political career, but that is a lot. This is Trump's one big flaw. It's the one big flaw of a lot of politicians who are otherwise on our side. And it's a big one. We do have to question it. It's still the best we've got, but should demand better regardless. Not sure if this is accurate. It might be photoshopped. I don't know. The Ben Shapiro one might have been as well, but it's not good. All right. Any proof at all, says JDev? I don't know. Treat this as just a prompt to go find out. We're still in the meme section after all. Mech Quattro, send him even more money. This ghost, I don't know what you mean by that. Yes, you are. Next meme. Chat, press 1 if this is true. Steam's competitors just keep fucking shooting themselves in the head while Steam stands there, does nothing, and wins every time. I'd have to conclude the reason this seems to keep happening is because this is actually a difficult market to break into, and Steam just has such a monopoly that no one else can do it. But they'd fucking love to, so they try anyway.
Well, the difference with Steam is that it's a private company and not beholden to retard shareholders.
That may be a factor.
Going public is suicide for any company. It's just a slow and prolonged one.
You may be right. I'm not sure. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah. Sweden has more gang criminals than Norway has soldiers. You may wonder, oh, it has just passed this threshold. Sweden only has one more gang criminal than Norway has soldiers. No, they have 5 times more. Sweden has 5 times the gang criminals as Norway's active military. Similar case with Finland as well. They have more than Norway's active military as well. Fun. Oh yeah.
I seriously think that this dude is following me.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. I'm following you. I've been following you. You know why? We're on a walking trail. We came from that way. It only goes this way. Of course I'm following you. Duh. Fucking duh.
Everyone, please post your finest anti-fem emoticons. Oh, mad indeed. See, this is the kind of woman who I would be able to tame and control, because even though she is clearly willing to defend herself bad, she is also clearly of a very diminutive IQ. Perfect target for me, frankly. Jeff. So this is what that guy from Linus Tech Tips is doing now. He does look like him, doesn't he? Interesting. And next up, speaking of which, anyone in chat do this? POV, you got yourself pregnant to play GTA 6 during maternity leave, and Rockstar changes the release date. This does seem like something Aqua would do. Anyone in chat do this? Jackie, did you do this? Brusak, did you do this? Be honest, ladies and gentlemen. Own up to what you have done. Don't worry.
No.
Don't worry. We shall blame Rockstar, not you. Not your fault at all. Entirely Rockstar. JDev, cease this madness. What is more dangerous, Canadian healthcare or being with me? It's a big question. Several have tried to answer it, and almost none of them survived. Somnus says, imagine thinking GTA 6 is going to release. It may not, though I suspect they have actually made a game. Unlike the Elder Scrolls 6, as I mentioned last stream. Oh, is the JF accent holding up well enough, chat? It's difficult to maintain it at its perfect level for a long time. I don't think it's holding up okay. Okay, so in response to a new story we will be covering later, in which the guy who went to India and filmed himself in the shit festival has backed down, unfortunately, has decided not to release the footage. Dinesh D'Souza makes what is possibly, and as far as I have seen, his first ever pro-Indian tweet, in which he presents data showing that in the US, Asians do better than whites. This is what you should expect, given they're fucking immigrants. They're supposed to be the best. Retard. But regardless, let me slip back into the coma that is the JF voice. O's mad. O's fucking mad. Get fucked. And then this man says, most people can't even begin to understand how insane this is. Far, far worse than Vivek's meltdown at Christmas. Dinesh has spent literal decades pretending to be race blind and rallying against identity politics. Then, when H-1B immigration starts to receive even the smallest pushback, he goes out of his way under no pressure, literally zero, none, not even someone replying to him or talking about politics, to find a random YouTuber who is documenting something unsavory about India and brag that America and her future belongs to Indians. I don't know much about Dinesh, but I know plenty now. Quattro says Indians are not Asians, they are pestilence. Closest humans to the definition, I would say. Next up. Yeah. That's the end of the meme section. To the news. To the newsmobile. Dun-dun-dun. Okay, what's the main story today? We probably should do the main story first. Also, let me just say quickly before we continue that I am once again Bernie Sanders, his chair fucking erect. I'm once again asking you to support me on both YouTube and Kick, but today, primarily Kick. Just open the Kick stream, have it on in the background if you like, just to sort of push some sort of attention towards that channel, because Kick has a better chance of pushing my content because it's controversial than YouTube does. So the more viewers we can get on there, the better. I would appreciate it. Robert De Niro. I don't think so, Ginger, no. Anyway, let us continue with this stream. It is never too late, and in fact, I invite you to keep trying despite the various distractions. Anyway, I have 69 news tabs. Yeah, we covered that one. Let's do the main story. Where is it? There it is. Venezuela has been a naughty boy. And now, US troops pictured trending in dense Puerto Rico forest as Venezuela invasion fears grow. I've had an idea. Get me a JF face to overlay here, and it will complete the illusion. We could have that one on whenever the JF voice is active, and I wouldn't have to clarify quite as much with this. Donald Trump is preparing for an imminent invasion of Venezuela, experts said, after the Marines posted photos of operations in dense Puerto Rican forests. He's trying to scare them, isn't he? Yeah, I think he is. And as you'll find out later in the stream, might be working. New images show Marines training in a forest compound in Puerto Rico amid fears an invasion by Venezuela by the US is imminent. Fears or hopes? The 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit posted a series of photos depicting training operations from late September on its Facebook page over the past several weeks. So the training is not right now, but the posts are. You may infer from that what you will. In fact, arguably, that makes it even more likely that they are preparing to invade Maduro's booty hole. Most show exercises in a dense Puerto Rican forest near Camp Santiago. a bass owned and operated by the Puerto Rico National Guard. It comes after an expert claimed Trump is creating a huge national security risk with his nonsensical Venezuela decision. Fuck the expert, they are wrong, as far as I can tell. Others feature videos of training operations, including ones that showed Marines loading and firing mortars into an empty field near the tree line. Prepare to be in that empty field, Venezuelan scum. Yet more, I've told you before, half of this voice comes from Blackadder. Yet more showed Marines rappelling from helicopters, storming the beaches in hovercraft from Navy ships, or operating tanks across beaches and fields. Some can be seen slashing their way through the forest, cutting the brush as they make their way toward exercise mission targets. How long, by the way, before Jeff discovers that I am doing this and calling him a murderer from time to time? For legal reasons, it is and always has been a joke. What's this? Every post details what the images or videos show, as well as the location of each exercise. Most are tagged Puerto Rico, while others are tagged Caribbean Sea. Quote, U.S. military forces are deployed to the Caribbean in support of the U.S. Southern Command Mission, Department of War directed operations, and the President's priority is to disrupt illicit drug trafficking and protect the homeland. Each one reads, there are dozens. I love how you're all just talking about JF. This has nothing to do with the fucking news story. There might be an invasion. You're all talking about JF. But of the troops' mission... it's just an excuse for me to use the voice, isn't it? Be honest. Part of the troops' mission is the beautification of the Cold War-era naval base, which was designed to keep Cuba and the threat of a Red Scare in the Caribbean in check. Talk about JF more. I killed my wife and ate a bugger in honor of her death. More pictures. And there is the man himself. It's pertinent to note that the lush jungle terrain of Puerto Rico closely mirrors that of Venezuela, which is located about 550 miles to the south. Military analysts told the Daily Mail that the similarities aren't an accident. The third bugger, indeed. That bugger contains the soul of the one formerly known as Mama Juf. Chat, write a number in chat, a percentage, which corresponds to how easy it is to concentrate on the news while I'm doing this voice. If it's 100%, then it's just as easy to concentrate on the news while I'm doing this voice as it is doing my normal voice. If it's 50%, it's twice as hard to concentrate on the news. If it's 150%, you actually find it easier to concentrate on the news while I'm doing the voice as when I'm not doing the voice. Daddy Bill appears to have found the only way to write an incorrect number. A negative percent makes no sense.
What value should you put in if you are incapable of remaining in a state of focusing on what you are saying during the JF voice?
0.
Against my will.
0%.
0 it is then.
Nacho's experiences a 90 times multiplier in her comprehension of the news whenever I'm doing this voice. Frankly, that offsets to a significant degree those who are saying it is lower. Emu, for example, experiences a roughly 8 times reduction in his ability to comprehend the news when I'm speaking like this. Daddy Bill says, I feel like I am losing childhood memories while listening to the voice. It is the natural opposition of the French and the Germans. It must be. You know, I think this might be the face. This might be the one to use. What do you think? Dun dun. Dun dun. Dun 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 dun. I'm coming for you. All right, let's go ahead and save that. The irony is, Jaws is a predator, and so is he. Allegedly. All right, we're just putting this one on for nothing. His face is so fucking thin. What the fuck? Okay, and then down. There we go. Chat, press 1 if no one asked for this. Nachos, I'll generally give you the choice on whether to keep this. Chat, press 1 if you would prefer my face, and press 2 if you would prefer Juff's face.
Oh god. We've replaced the British guy with a Frenchman.
Yeah, Wolf.
Something worse.
Wolf,
Not just
stick that
a
in.
French, a plastic frog.
Wolf, stick that in Cabal Shrine. I would like to thank. So what was it? Sorry, was it 1 for my face and 2 for Jeff's face? I think it was. I'd like to thank, therefore, John Wick Returns, Nachos, and Busak and Nomon for being simps, saying that my face is nicer than JF's. Although, also thank you. You like the voice, not his face. Nacho says mine is marginally better. Oh, is that how you have to word it? Come on, Nachos, be honest. But fine, I will remove the Jeff face for now. I should use that picture of it and hold the cheeses.
Oh god, I look over at stream and both the Frenchman and the British man's face are on stream. This is a nightmare.
Again, Nachos, I appreciate that you have to maintain appearances. Anyway, moving on. Begin with... Well, we continue with... The United States is trying to make sure it has sufficient infrastructure for whatever the president might order. Mark Montgomery, a retired rear admiral who spent time in Puerto Rico in the 1980s, told the Mail. There is the man himself, Maduro, one of the most evil men in practice in the world today. Anyway, next, sorry. I guess no invasion after all. Trump admin tells Congress it currently lacks legal justification to strike Venezuela. Trump admin officials told lawmakers on Wednesday that the U.S. is not currently planning to launch strikes inside Venezuela and doesn't have a legal justification that would support attacks against any land targets right now, according to sources familiar with the briefing conducted by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, an official from White House, blah, blah, blah. Jeez it. That was a Wallace X Blender, or Bender, sorry. Lawmakers were told during the classified session that the opinion produced by the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel to justify strikes against suspected drug bots, first reported by CNN last month, does not permit strikes inside Venezuela itself or any other territories, for sources said. Says fucking you. The execute order that launched the U.S. military campaign against suspected drug bots that began in September also does not extend to land targets, the briefers said, according to the sources. The officials did not rule out any potential future actions, one of the sources said. So, no invasion after all. Well, let's see the power of a veiled threat. Maduro open to managed exit if Trump provides amnesty. Putin on standby with military aid. Last week, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro reached out to Russia, China, and Iran for possible military aid after U.S. President Donald Trump mulled a military attack amid a massive buildup of American forces in the region. Quote, the requests to Moscow were made in the form of a letter meant for Vladimir Putin and was intended to be delivered during a visit to the Russian capital by a senior aide this month. Adding that Maduro also sent a letter to Chinese President Xi Jinping seeking expanded military cooperation between the two countries in order to counter the escalation between the US and Venezuela. If I had to guess which country other than Mexico was being used as a staging ground to move large amounts of illegal drugs from China into the US, guess which one I'd fucking guess? That's right, it is fucking Venezuela. So I think that's probably what Trump is doing this for. Where was I? Maduro is apparently open to a managed exit/exile as long as Trump promises amnesty. Maduro would be open to a managed exit if the US provides amnesty for him and his top lieutenants, lifts its bounties, and facilitates a comfortable exile, people who have dealings with the Caracas regime say. If there is enough pressure, and if there is enough candy in the dish, the person who speaks to officials in both countries said, everything is on the table with Maduro. Of course, one needs to view the managed exit thing with a grain of salt, given the source and timing of what's going on. I would guess he may want out anyway. It's like starting a business with the hope that you will be bought by Google. You need to be bought by Google at some point. You become a dictator, you need to be bought out of it at some point or killed. High risk. Still, maybe what Trump wants though. Of note, Trump's Venezuela envoy Richard Grenell was originally tasked with negotiating a deal with Maduro that would allow U.S. access to Venezuela's oil and minerals, crackdowns on gangs and the drug transit, release of detained Americans, resumption of deportation flights to Venezuela. A puppet would be better than Maduro. US puppet. Even indolent one be better than Maduro. While Grenell secured early concessions, including the release of 6 American hostages, Trump abruptly ended Grenell's negotiations after Secretary of State Marco Rubio pushed for a more aggressive strategy. Grenell, however, had made headway in negotiating a managed exit for Maduro. Talks of a managed exit come amid U.S. strikes on allegedly cartel-linked boats near Venezuela and in the Pacific, killing at least 65 people across 16 attacks, which was followed by the Pentagon launching the largest Caribbean buildup since 1962. Chat, press 1 if you're getting sick of the voice, which include the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, 8 plus warships. Monster Wolf, don't put on that picture what you're thinking of putting on that picture. 8 plus warships, 10,000 troops, nuclear submarine, drones and fighter jets. In short, way more than what might be needed to take on cartels, implying imminent regime change, which the Atlantic is surely happy about, says Zero Edge for some reason. Trump has also authorized the CIA to conduct potentially lethal activities in Venezuela, as if they needed permission, it says. With tensions escalating, Russia has responded to Maduro's plea for aid, with Moscow now publicly saying it's prepared to provide support, including repairing Russian-made Sukhoi fighter jets, upgrading radar and engines, delivering around 14 missile units, possible supply of new Orezhnik missile systems. Very few of you are sick of the voice, surprisingly. Or have you just stopped paying attention to me? At this point, the stream is happening in chat, I take it. Let's have a look at the YouTube chat, actually. let's see if any of them are sick of it yet. No, actually, interestingly. Okay. Wolf has the stream muted. You bastard. Community stream. Yeah, the community is the stream. If I could continue earning money doing that, I'd be fine with that. I wouldn't mind that at all. But one fears one must put in at least a tiny modicum of effort. Would you rather I just be here and let you be the stream? The voice will stay for the rest of this story and perhaps one more. But we did also have it for a large portion of the memes portion of this stream. Moscow is considering this to be a legitimate bilateral military technical cooperation, not covert aid, which would of course raise the cost and the risk of a US strike or invasion, and the risks a direct proxy confrontation. So yeah, I think what Trump and co are hoping for is to push Maduro out or to pressure Venezuela to drop it. I don't think Putin wants a war with the US, especially not right now. But if there was one, it's possible it could go nuclear, of course, which neither side wants, so they'll avoid that. I think Trump is hoping that just a push, a nudge, the threat of doing something with Maduro will be enough. Maybe he can even diplomatically keep Russia, China, and Iran out of it. But I don't know. It does seem like a wall is being put up here, where they're not going to be allowed to do a regime change in Venezuela unless Maduro gets some nice things. Honestly, if it was me, maybe I would just agree to Maduro's demands, because at least then the country might be in a better position. Sure, agree to the demands and then install someone better, using whatever powers are required. Get the CIA ready with something and install someone better. Just make sure that your puppet stays in. Otherwise, could just be someone worse. Solness is probably more interested in a general coup. Hey, if they can get the people to do a coup, even with the CIA nudging them, and then the US just sits by and helps in subtly, then that'll be fine. I'm not against the CIA toppling communist regimes, especially when they're fucking totalitarian and evil like this. I'm not against that. I'm just against them using it against Western countries for the good of a very small number of corrupt politicians. Nacho says they're too hungry to do a coup. They may be. But there have to be some people in his country Maduro keeps well fed. I wonder if they would be willing. Right. Nomon says the CIA being involved is an integral part of any coup. True. Speaking of which, remember, chat, that currently Nomon skill issue is at the top of the board, but there are many other options you could support. to push things up. Also, if you want your Cabal house to have a nice icon of the choosing of your house, Cauldron is very close to overtaking Orbos, if you wanted to do that. What else is there? There's loads of other. If you type in /leaders and go to filter, there's loads of other things that you can apply to people. Who is currently on their Emperor arc? It's Quattro. Nacho says, yeah. Nacho says, how do I get into a house? Level 2. Level 2, and then I have to run a script, which I do every now and again. The housing system is currently kind of vestigial, but we're occasionally using it. I do intend to sort of recreate it at some point. Nachos asks, how do they get level 2? Nachos, you must be aware of the Cabal Charter, right? You read all of this stuff. Here is a link to the page with information about roles. Daddy Bill, is there anywhere else you could go where you could hear such things said? Who do I have to petition? You have to petition anyone. It'll happen if people believe you should get the role. And bear in mind, Nachos, as probably you would do as well, there are a few people in the server who hold off women for longer than men. I don't necessarily support this policy, but I understand why some people do. So even if someone were to put you up for promotion, there's a fair chance that you would be rejected on that ground alone. There are some limits on how dumb the rejection reason can be for level 2, but it's fairly open. But let's see what happens. Nacho supports this concept. Right. I am aware that some of last stream's contributors I forgot to give Cabal credit to. I'll try and remember to do that after the stream. Please do remind me, especially if you were one of the ones that did contribute. Do remind me after the stream, and I'll look back. Maybe while we're watching Gladiator, I'll look back at the contributions and give you all the credit. Country in South America that ended up with a communist dictator was because the CIA thought they could put someone that would prevent communism. Oh, hey, I'm not saying it always worked. I'm not saying it even would work, but they already have just about the worst option in Venezuela. So I think replace him, even if it's as bad. You still rolled the dice and came up with nothing worse. Yeah, I mean, Ginger does make a fair point. All right. So the Venezuela situation is still in flux. Trump may be able to pressure Venezuela into giving him some of what he wants, or at least to stop fucking with him. Perhaps Maduro's tenure is not long for this world. That would be interesting. But let's see if there is any truth to the notion that the ships they are apprehending, bombing, and generally fucking with may contain drugs. This is footage of U.S. Coast Guard intercepting drug smugglers near Venezuela. Do not fuck the drug ships, says Ghost. It might be a sub-immune. I don't know, we shall see. Apologies for the loud background noise. I've done what I can about it. See if I can do more, actually. Yeah, that's better. Skip ahead a bit to when things are happening. So there's a gun out now. Found the boat. We just changed course. Run away! Run away! All right, they then approach the boat. They get closer. It's a speedboat, by the looks of it, not a sub. Chat, press 1 if you're American and you're okay with your tax dollars being spent on sending out well-armed helicopters to hunt down narco ships smuggling drugs into the US and shoot them to death. In this case, I don't think they're going to shoot them to death, but they are going to stop them, one way or another. Jackie says, so that's what happened to my cocaine.
I would like to point out the 50 BMG Barrett the guy's holding. He has plenty of firepower to disable that boat.
Yeah. Skip ahead a bit. They have stopped. Prepare to get fucked. God, the background noise is insane. I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna fucking mute the video and show you mute the audio and show you the video itself. All right, so we got the approach here. This is a totally different boat. I guess this is just a compilation. Ladies and gentlemen, press 1 if they are guilty because they are brown.
Last gun.
This is a compilation, it appears. Not a single incident.
I love that little half sub boat that was made out of the Cigarassos. The blue one they just showed.
So this is footage. There's nothing here that sort of like demonstrates, are they actually drug smugglers? I'm willing to trust at this point on a relatively simple question. I'm willing to trust that they are, in fact.
Judging from the construction of what we saw, yeah, definitely.
Wouldn't be surprised. The seized drugs were transferred to a US vessel as part of a massive offload in Florida. Yeah. Good. So yeah, I have really never had any doubt that when Trump's been bombing these boats, they are actually drug smugglers. Now they might not be. There's certainly something to be said for actually giving due process there, making sure, but they're not US citizens and they are almost certainly drug smugglers. So I don't really care. It's so low on the list of priorities, giving them due process, that maybe it's better to, just to be sure, just to keep all your T's crossed and I's dotted, but it's not a high priority. They were simple fishermen.
That blue one likely was drug, because that's a modified Cigrasso, which is a leisure boat known for speed. They cut off the top part, they lay in that cabin thing, and they keep it low so it doesn't hit radar.
I guess they painted it blue to avoid, to make it look more like the sea as well. Weird to paint it like a strong blue like that. You'd paint it a more grey blue, wouldn't you? I don't know. This is the due process for dealing with foreign narco-terrorists on this. And yeah, and I'm not really against that position. I think it would be ideal to go through an actual written, trackable process, but it's not a big concern because they are almost certainly foreign narco-terrorists acting as part of a large campaign to destabilize the US, and whose actions collectively have resulted in the deaths of thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of Americans over many years, which Trump has only a limited amount of time to discourage and prevent. So yeah, I don't particularly care. And I think Rand Paul taking this up as a big deal is very much missing the point. Yeah, as Nacho says, we told them to stop. They didn't. Not our fault. They didn't believe us. We warned them. Yeah, it's fair. Assuming that everyone Trump has bombed is a narco-terrorist, yeah, I don't care. Yeah, fair enough. So it's much easier to just fucking shoot them, I guess. Yeah, if these were US citizens, I'd say no, that's wrong. Because they're not, And like, by the way, the same thing applies to the Channel crossing boats. The difference there is those are not smart people. They're not geniuses. And they're not importing drugs. They're just importing themselves, which is easier to tell when that's happened. It's easy to stop that from happening. Easy. This is much harder. They're much smarter, much more discreet, and what they're smuggling in is much harder to find once it's there. Now, I'm not totally against, like, ultimately, if we want to stop the boats coming across the channel, I'm not totally against using violence, but I'm just saying it's completely unnecessary. It's easier not to. But if that's necessary, then sure. But again, to make sure people understand, that is a very small portion of the immigration into the UK, a very small portion of the problem. But it is indicative, it is symbolic of it, so it does need to be solved. No one says, don't care, Bram's in a boat heading towards the west. Okay, I think what we'll do, Nachos, is I will pause the voice for now, but I'll bring it back for one story later of your choice. Because I think too much contiguous voice is a bit much, but I don't feel like I've quite fulfilled the full 50 quid yet. So I'll bring it back a little later. So you tell me which story you want it in while we're in the story, and I'll just put the voice on until we finish that story. Right. We've done the main story. Shall we go through the list in order? We do have this one. I only want to say quickly on this one, Reuters is reporting Trump in shift acknowledges Americans are paying something for tariffs. And I wanted to sort of go like, well, fucking duh. That's how tariffs work. Any American that does business directly with foreign countries is paying something for it. And if the economy shrinks as a result, then taxes may slightly increase as a result, or inflation may slightly cost taxpayers money. But it's the corollary of that is that more business is brought back to the US. If the tariffs can go one or the other way, they can either isolate the country and destroy them, or if the country's strong enough to produce its own economy internally, it can supercharge it, and it'll do the latter for America, definitely. So what Trump is doing may cost Americans some amount in terms of like an overall gross reduction in their income, but not that many and not by much. But the increase, especially over a slightly longer period of time, by strengthening the economy, should be significantly larger in my amateur estimation. So I don't know why Reuters is reporting this as if it's a slam dunk. I guess because they're idiots. But maybe there's something more to it. So let's have a quick read. Trump on Thursday acknowledged that US consumers are paying more for goods because of the tariffs he has set, a shift in rhetoric, even as he insisted that the policies benefited Americans overall. Trump has used tariffs as a diplomatic and economic cudgel since coming into office. Good. By the way, protectionism is the solution to so many international problems right now. If all Western countries were doing it in a sensible way against the right targets, it would really shift the world in a better direction. Has long insisted that foreign nations are the ones putting money into US coffers because of the levies. Economists say tariffs are paid by the consumers of the goods themselves. That can be the case. The businesses that buy from foreign countries have to pay more to the government for doing so, and they may then pass on the costs to the people who buy them. Now, on the one hand, yes, the direct effect of that is that US consumers are paying more. But realistically, the mid and long-term effects of that is that those businesses will stop buying from foreign countries, or they'll do it less. They'll be discouraged from doing so. And so those foreign countries lose money. It's not as profitable to do business with foreign countries, which is exactly how you solve the problem of a foreign country outsourcing its immorality to kill your working class, which is what they've been doing. They don't care about slavery or near slavery standards. They don't give a fuck. So they're vampirizing our markets by manipulating the fact that we have standards, and they don't. The way to maintain those standards is protectionism. And yes, Western nations must use it. It is necessary to maintain an economy with moral standards, which, by the way, is also better for our economies. Like, it's not just moral, it's also better because our own working class gets the money which they can then spend internally. So it keeps things within the system. It keeps the people of the countries like useful and satisfied. So yeah. So what they're reporting on here is only true really technically and in the very short term. If the market is free enough as well, competition will soon eat this problem out of existence. It's very likely to be noticeable only for a short time, if at all, to almost anyone. Cannot apply utopian moral standards to an immoral world. We have to interact with the world as it is, full of evil, because it is. That's where protectionism comes in, yes. Again, it's not just about morals. Slavery is bad for the country that implements it, in at least the long term, if not possibly less as well, because money it's not just about getting the work done. It's about assigning value to where it's worth assigning it. That's what money is for ultimately. And people who get more wealthy than their merit implies because they have the power to prevent people who are granting them that merit from getting theirs is not a good way of assigning value. So too few people get too much, and those with less power have less access to that merit in the first place, so they have less bargaining power in your society, and really every strata needs some amount of bargaining power in your society. So it just fucks up the balance entirely. Slavery is a bad idea for the country that implements it. The only time slavery is a good idea is if, in the very specific circumstance, that you are exporting that slave labor into countries who are only too willing to accept it because it's cheaper in order to sabotage them and to steal all of their money. It is a way to vampirize nations. It's what China's doing. It's to some extent what India and other countries are doing as well. It's a good idea for them. The way you defeat it is you maintain protectionism against them. It's better for our economies and it's better for our moralities. No one says slavery is the slaver parasitizing whatever system he can extract from without putting anything back in. That's another way of putting it. Yes, that works too. So yeah. Protectionism is a way of doing it. Yes. Maybe what you mean, Emu, is that we can't just be more moral. No, you have to enforce it. You have to do something to make it so. If we want to say slavery bad, we have to actually prevent it from being used by our countries, not just in our countries, but used by them as well. Same thing with recycling as well. A less severe issue, but still something people feel moral about. Whatever you want to say about its effectiveness. Just exporting our carbon or whatever, our trash, to China so that they can dump half of it in the sea, that's not a solution. Assuming that climate change, assuming it's real for a second, it's a worldwide issue. Exporting it from one nation to another does fucking nothing. In fact, it makes it worse because they have worse standards than the West does. It's useless. Worse than useless. So yeah, it's dumb. Almost every financial relationship that the West has with China, we'd be better off in the mid and long term completely cutting off. It would be a massive shock to do it all at once. And there are some that are not terrible. There's some that are probably fine. But most we should cut off. Most we should try and bring back to our own nations, because we can do all of the stuff that they're doing just as well, if not better than they are. They're good at copying, but they're not as good at innovating. We, the West, are good at innovating. We need to be leading the pack. Sure, they can copy. They can manufacture 10 years behind us. That's probably what's going to happen in the future if we do well. They can just remain 10 years behind us. That's fine. But they should not be dominant. It's ridiculous. It has to be given up by our leaders. If a leader is even half intelligent, they can easily deflect this. Protectionism is the obvious solution. It's why Trump doing it is a very good idea. It's one of the most important things for him to do, aside from election integrity. She hasn't done enough for, to be honest. All right, there we go. Supreme Court raised doubts. Fuck this article. We're moving on. Okay. Here's a story about AI. Now, during this story, we're going to try not to talk too much about AI in general, because I can go on for ages about my opinions on AI, as I'm sure many of you can as well. We're going to try and talk more about the economics. Although, again, I will mention that's not really my strong suit, although I was just talking about it for a while. So forgive me if I don't get something, or if we move on from this story quickly, because not my strong suit. Disaster ensues after AI behemoth floats idea of stealing your tax dollars if they fail. Ginger, the climate change thing, you're welcome to put it, but my point is not to discuss whether it's true. It's just, if it's true, it still doesn't make sense what they're doing. So there's Sam Altman, who looks like a resurrected zombie. AI behemoth OpenAI tried to lay the groundwork for a taxpayer-funded bailout Wednesday and has met with swift condemnation. The Wall Street Journal published a story Sunday suggesting that OpenAI has now become too big to fail. I mean, kind of worryingly, yeah. you could drag down a significant portion of the economy with it, and that bubble is going to burst. Biggest bubble in history. And the only bubble that might be bigger is China's economy. But it's also all kind of tied in, so I don't know. The Wall Street Journal, blah, blah, blah. In other words, if the company were to go under, it would be such a blow to the US economy that the government would have to intervene and save it. Otherwise, there might be a spiraling drain effect that sucks down the entire system. A domino effect from hell. OpenAI CFO Sarah Fryer seemed to test pilot the idea at a Wall Street Journal conference Wednesday, saying that the company wants to build up an ecosystem of banks, private equity groups, and a federal government backstop or guarantee to help build and finance the crucial data centers. It's also fucking catastrophic. It's just a terrible situation. The thing is, if the West can just like begin completely dominating on AI, this probably will get better. It'll be less of a bubble, especially if we can find things that we can actually do usefully with it. Because there's a few things now, but it's mostly a gimmick still. Despite the fact it's very, very powerful, but still, given the money thrown into it, it's not really meeting that demand. But I watched a video by a YouTuber called Theo recently, who's very smart, has thought a lot about AI and knows a lot about economics and running your own business and all that stuff. He made a good point, which I'd sort of realized, but he definitely structured it well. What OpenAI is doing is massively financially wasteful. They're making a huge loss every year. How? It's a huge fucking endeavor, and AI is very popular. Well, how is because it's still so in development that every year they double the scope of the development, the R&D they need to do. So they're always throwing money into it. Okay, then what the fuck how are people still investing in it? They're making a loss every year and a bigger loss every year because if they win this race, they get financial dominance for decades, or at least a decade. Massive payoffs. Right now, it's they're just chasing that victory. They're chasing that at the point that the money you're putting in is worth the money you're getting out, which is you need to compete. You need to get to the top. You need to be the predominant AI company, which they kind of are, but they're still competing heavily with other companies. Once they get there, once they're the first company that gets there, they get massive stable gains, which will continue for years. That's the theory anyway. I believe that's my understanding of it. So investors are willing to just dump fuckloads of money into it because it's going to be so lucrative once it finally gets to that point. And OpenAI is, I believe, the biggest, at least the biggest in the West. So every year they're making huge losses. All of that money loaned from investors is just being burned. But that waste is worth something if it finally comes to the ultimate fruition and the company becomes stable in that. So it's a huge gamble. As I said, probably the biggest in history. One hopes it pays off, because if it doesn't, it's going to be disastrous. Even if the US government tries to guarantee the company's existence, that might still be catastrophic for the economy. Ginger says, I saw a thing recently that says that the current AI bubble is even bigger than the Dutch tulip bubble. If you don't understand the significance of this, then all you need to do is, this is fucking terrifying. The power grid is also being destroyed around the AI farms. Yep. I would hope that Trump is already investing in new energy sources, either new completely or just new instances of. Norman says, sounds a lot like communism will work this time, I promise. Arguably. Thing is with communism is we know it won't. And it's not money, it's human lives that you throw into the meat grinder. But in some ways it is. It is basically a Ponzi scheme. But they are actually producing something. It's not really hitting its value yet. I mean, it's inches away from a fucking Ponzi scheme. The whole fucking economy is inches away from a Ponzi scheme. The problem is it's all on the assumption that, well, I reckon it'll work one day. So let me throw in this money and waste it, and maybe I'll get something back in 10 years. But that's, arguably that's high-level operations because it's highly risky. But what that means is it requires highly expert reasoning. The kind of people that can make that risk are the people that are really forward-looking and really intelligent, or stupid, and they're going to lose it all. We're not sure which way it's going to go yet. But it's rather like what I say about sociology. Right? You compare physics, where the answers are pretty much objective, to sociology, where the answers are not. With physics, it's actually quite easy to remain objective, as long as your instruments are working. It's quite easy to remain objective. Just say what's on the screen. You read the fucking meter. With sociology, it's really hard to keep it even vaguely objective, to get even close to even the direction of objective, which is why it's often called a soft science. But notably, that's not really a criticism of sociology. I mean, sure, it is, but of sociologists, if they're good at their job, which is a big if, then it takes a hell of a lot more scientific discipline, arguably, than physicists. Physicists just need to look at the meter and read it, and then they're being objective. With sociologists, the amount of fucking factors they have to account for to be even somewhat scientific with what they're looking at, half their fucking time is spent on rigor. If they're good at it, again, if they're good at it, which many of them aren't, that's why it has such a bad reputation, possibly. Because it's social, so you get a lot of idiots in it, and it's difficult to keep rigorous, so the idiots fail to do so. So there you go. But those few sociologists who are actually good at it will be some of the most scientific, like automatically scientifically rigorous people in science. So yeah, same idea here. The kind of people who can succeed in this extremely high risk scenario are some of the smartest money people in human history, in a sense. At least it tempers for that high level of expertise and of foresight. So this is the sort of pattern I have observed with humans, that they will tend to move towards strategies which produce a higher volatility of outcome. So you get higher potential gains and lower potential losses, more extreme potential losses. Methods that allow you to produce that massive fluctuation, that massive range of possibilities, are actually good, ultimately, because if you master them, if you figure out the methods to get a reliable up on them, then you can start to hit reliably that high outcome. And the amount of fucking waste and risk and loss that you'll go through to get there is colossal. But if you nail it, your civilization will dominate everyone else who hasn't done that yet. So unfortunately, as much as many people would like us to do low risk things like the gold standard, we have to do these high risk things, otherwise someone else will. That is the course of human history. Once we're sort of stable enough to try it, to risk the waste, we should do it, even though it will be a lot of waste, a lot of loss, because someone has to, and it's going to be extremely powerful for whoever masters it. And realistically, who in the world has the innovative nature to attempt to master it? Pretty much just the West. Asia to some extent, but less. The whole thing is being viewed as to own the future is cheap at any price. Kind of, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one way of putting it. There's definitely lots of ways of sort of wording what I'm talking about here. Right. To remind you all, today we plan to do probably a shorter stream, because yesterday I said we watched Gladiator after the stream, but it was too late. We all decided to postpone it. So I may end in about an hour, about 2.5 hours, and then 2.5 hours total, and then we'll watch Gladiator in Cabal. So if you're watching on another platform, hop into Cabal. Hopefully you'll be able to join us. We'll do a Saturday movie, because it is Saturday. Yes, it is Saturday. And that'll be today's thing. All things being viewed, yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's that. Let's see what the next thing on this is. So Sam Altman says, first, the obvious one. So I want to clarify a few things. First, the obvious one. We do not have or want government guarantees for OpenAI data centers. We believe that governments should not pick winners or losers, and that taxpayers should not bail out companies that make bad business decisions or otherwise lose in the market. Well, he's certainly saying the right thing. I do mostly approve of that. Unfortunately, there are some times where it's advisable to at least consider it. He says, if one company fails, other companies will do good work. Very self-sacrificing there, Sam. He then said, arguably a virtue signal. He then says, what we do think might make sense is governments building and owning their own AI infrastructure, but then the upside of that should flow to the governments as well. We can imagine a world where governments decide to offtake a lot of computing power and get to decide how to use it, and it may make sense to provide lower cost of capital to do so. Building a strategic national reserve of computing power makes a lot of sense, but this should be for the government's benefit, not the benefit of private companies. It sounds like you're trying to get the government to basically become a customer of OpenAI. I might be missing something there. But weaving in government money with private money is always a massive risk, especially with a bubble like this. Unfortunately, it might be necessary to do something. Ginger says, I'm personally of the opinion that the current LLM-based AI system is kind of like the ceramic material known as China. It's a technology with a set path of progress, and that set path of progress is a fundamental hard limit. Much like China, I say we let the Chinese run away with it while we focus on other better things. I think AI is, even if it changes in fundamental structure, there's a lot of talk of switching from a transformer-based text generation model to a diffusion-based text generation model. One such example, even if the fundamental structure changes, which it's likely to, the general field of AI is absolutely necessary to invest heavily in right now. As much as I kind of wish we could just chill and be stable and be cool and be isolationist and not take risks right now, we need to. Someone is going to, and whoever does is going to find such colossal power in this. There's obviously a possibility that whoever does will just collapse. Maybe we should let China be the canary. The problem with that is if they win, then they win big.
The way I see it, China's gonna fucking ruin themselves with AI one way or another. If we can convince them to do it of their own accord faster, that may be better in the end.
I think China's kind of fragile anyway. They wouldn't have to suffer a bubble collapse that big in order for their economy to collapse. Nacho's unfortunately destroying the Three Gorges Dam, as I've said before, is kind of like saying, we just need to throw all of our nukes at China at once. That'll solve it. Yeah, total annihilation like that, they're just going to nuke you back. Even if they don't know it's you that did it. Like, it is a doomsday solution. Even if it collapses on its own, they'll probably think it was sabotage. So, whilst it would destroy a good portion of China's infrastructure, and that would ultimately be good for the world, though very bad in the short term, but good ultimately. I mean, that's just, it wouldn't be much different than just nuking every city they have. I wonder if Chinese nukes even work. It's a good question. They might not. The nukes in the world that I would have the greatest confidence in them still working are American nukes. I mean, in terms of like America, Russia, and China, the big ones. So that's good. Russia's probably the lowest. But China's in the middle. I suspect they still have a lot of working nukes. Lithium Logica in YouTube chat is saying AI that is general intelligence that can scale is earth-shatteringly powerful. It would be like artificially creating as many Einsteins as we want to use against or for anyone. It's worth pursuing. Agreed. I would only very slightly change the wording, but no, agreed. Because LLMs are arguably not. I mean, general intelligence in a sense, yes. They're not AGI. They're not independent agents which can operate in the world independently. They're just thinking engines that generate text. But it's text based on human logic patterns. And the nature of LLMs and neural nets are such that it probably is forming internal abstract reasoning centers anyway, so it's not just text replication, it is also logic replication directly, I suspect. I don't know that for sure. So even if it's just LLMs, yes, it is a technology that can completely dominate the world if used properly. It's just we haven't got to the point of implementing it right yet. It may take decades to implement it right. But whoever does is going to be superpowered. And we're not just talking about using it for government or using it for all the things people fear. Like, that is a concern. Some of those things may be beneficial, but I'm talking more just like the things that we currently pay humans to do, which, those people are going to lose their jobs. Well, unfortunately, a nation does that. It has to keep the nation alive. The people that do still have jobs will still continue to and not be invaded. People will need to reorganize their priorities to find something they can do in society, because AI is just going to take over so many things, but it's so much more efficient, or can be, to do it that way. Right now, it's not ready because the technology is a bit too unreliable and it's way too energy expensive. But there will come a time where there's a big surge in efficiency in AI development, particularly when the performance starts to plateau. The efficiency will be focused on next. Same thing happened with CPUs. And that will probably herald some of the biggest job replacements, because at that point, it'll be so cheap to have an AI to do it. I mean, even already it's quite cheap. But by that time, again, it'll be so much more advanced. It'll make mistakes much less often, assumedly. So, yeah, that might be 5 years away. It might be 10 years away. Might be 15, 20. But probably not 15, 20. It's going to happen at some point, though. Being able to scale a midwit army for any purpose I want is strikingly terrifying. Yeah, midwit today, so it's going to keep going up. No one says scalability is not guaranteed. I mean, compared to a human, it bloody is. It's like you forget the word if when it comes to this. Yeah, no, there's a lot of ifs, but it has the potential to do this. As far as I understand the technology, it definitely could do this. Everything I'm saying could definitely come true. I think it's quite likely, actually. Ginger says, the fundamental hard limit is that current AI models rely on taking data and using it as the basis to create new content, but in doing so create tiny flaws, and then this new content ends up being the basis for newer AI's training data. That does happen, but that can also be filtered for, and even synthetic AI created data doesn't have to poison the AI's reasoning. There will be a competitive process whereby anything that unsuccessfully does that will be worse. I mean, that's already very much the case. There's a big community of people that compare AIs. There's massive investment put into benchmarking them. So ultimately, if they start doing that, yeah, they'll hit a wall, but then someone will innovate and find a way to continue without doing that. Maybe they'll hit a wall of data input, so they'll innovate in some other way and it'll suddenly break through that wall in some other way. Like the paths splaying out from here for AI development are so multivarious that no wall on any one of them is going to stop AI development. It's potentially so huge. Nomon, I wouldn't necessarily say bullish on the future, bullish on AI, but it's not going to be nice for humans to, progressively more and more, it's going to be very difficult for humans to live through this. Unfortunately, we kind of have to do it because if any large collective, any nation doesn't pursue AI to this extent, it will be left behind. We naturally discount the ifs that make it more efficient than we were expecting to. Imagine what you think, but lamer and slower and less. What I've already seen would blow away such a statement even 3 years ago, Nomon. Nachos is asking if tech talk is a punishment for the JF voice. Is this not to your liking? Yes, I suppose it is. This is supposed to be about economics, but I said I was going to try and avoid the actual AI conversation, but here we are. Let's try to talk about the thing itself. He says the area we have discussed loan guarantees, part of supporting the build-out of semiconductor fabs in the US. We know other companies have responded to the government's call. Would be happy to help. Did not formally apply. Okay, so he's sort of distancing himself from every part of this. It's a long fucking post. I'm not reading all that. This guy says, Sam just wrote a 1,500-word essay explaining why he absolutely doesn't want government guarantees while outlining a $1.4 trillion moonshot that somehow needs them in spirit, if not on paper. It's performance art at this point. He's basically saying, we don't want bailouts, we just want the government to build the thing, fund the thing, secure the thing, and then maybe let us rent it. For now, I will take preliminarily this summary rather than reading the entire fucking essay. But yeah, either way, I think that the sort of takeaway from this, from what I can gather so far, is a little bit concerning how much government money might end up being stuck in this system. Government money in private business is always something that you want to be very careful of, especially when there is a bubble this big. If Sama doesn't use AI to accelerate his essay writing, then it's definitely a bubble. Not even written by him, it was ChatGPT 5, they say. Maybe. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else we've got on this. Sam Altman denies OpenAI needs a government bailout. He just wants massive government subsidy. So Zero Hedge takes the same interpretation of that tweet anyway. And then what's this? Trump admin rules out AI backstop amid OpenAI uproar. So this was... Yeah, so this is what happened afterwards. Is Trump says he's not going to do that, whether we believe that or not. Trump admin officials are dismissing the idea. Come on, will the page load? God, there's fucking complex HTML here. Dismissing the idea of a financial backstop for artificial intelligence companies, US officials said after comments from top OpenAI executive raised questions about the prospects for a federal bailout. There are no plans for the administration to consider such a move going forward. Then again, that's what they said about Venezuela as well. And the idea is not on the table, the official said, speaking on condition of anonymity to describe internal thinking. Well, this could be bullshit then. Of course, it might not be. The admin's position marks a fresh signal for the industry of how much the government is willing to intervene in the sector. It follows comments from OpenAI Chief Financial Officer Sarah Fryer, who suggested this week that the US government backstop the guarantee that allows the financing to happen. Those remarks caught the attention of investors, industry heavyweights, and White House advisors. It's all very concerning anyway. I would advise severe caution in this, and I think what we're going to have to do is, again, I don't know much about the economic side of this. We're just going to have to wait and see what they do. We'll cover this more, but I think generally significant caution in investing in this. As I said, unfortunately, I think it does need to be pushed, but there's a lot of danger here. Maybe so. Yeah, no, I'm not sure though. Cortis, as a company that is doing well, would not even consider asking for such a thing. Maybe. I don't know, because as I said earlier, you can't really measure a OpenAI success from their revenue. You have to measure it from the hope of future revenue on the basis that they're going to unlock some glorious technological sort of plateau, some new golden age of AI tech. It's very hard to assess. You might be able to assess it from investment, but of course that's still, I mean, that's just, you're measuring the bubble at that point. So yeah, don't know. It is currently within the top 1 or 2, maybe top 3, I'm not sure, AI models in the world. So they're still at or near the top. The only one I think might be better is Kimi K2, was it? The recently released one, which is a bit better, but much newer. So, you know, GPT-6 is likely to leapfrog that again. I'll have to keep an eye on it. Right. Let's move on. 3 more Chinese researchers charged with smuggling biological materials into the US. Now, was this some Chinese holidaymakers who brought in some unusual Chinese food? Maybe not even cats and dogs. Or is it biological weapons smuggling? 3 additional Chinese researchers at the University of Michigan have been charged as part of an ongoing investigation into the smuggling of biological materials from China to the US, the US Department of Justice announced on November 5th. Bai Zhu, 28, Zhang Fengfan, 27, and Zhang Zhiyong, 30, were charged in a criminal complaint filed on November 4th in the US District for the Eastern District of Michigan. Bai and Zhang Fengfan were, great name by the way, were charged with conspiracy to smuggle biological materials into the US, while Zhang Zhiyong was charged with making false statements to federal agents. Quick question, Triple, do you agree that some Chinese names sound funny in English? Like, would Feng Fan sound funny in Chinese? Or does it just sound like goofy when pronounced in English? Am I even saying it wrong, perhaps? Or does it not sound goofy to you?
Sounds all right to me.
Hard question, I guess. The 3 defendants were arrested at the John F. Kennedy International Airport on October 16th and taken into custody by Immigration and Customs Enforcement before they could board a flight to China. Ew. Frank Fang reports that the Epoch Times was unable to reach the defendants' attorneys for comment, but notes that the case is connected to Hang Chengshuan, a Chinese scholar at China's Huazhong University of Science and Technology. Han was supposed to start research at the University of Michigan in June under a J-1 visa, but was arrested upon her arrival at Detroit Metro Airport that month. She was accused of having shipped, prior to her arrival in the US, petri dishes containing nematode worms known as C. elegans to the university and falsely declaring them on shipping documents. Why? I've heard of them, nematode worms. Aren't nematode worms the ones with like 300 neurons? Might be wrong, but they're used for science. It's not like they don't exist in the US. I wonder why this is the case. Maybe this is only news because they're Chinese? Han later pleaded no contest to 3 smuggling charges into lying to US customs officials and was sentenced to time served in September. According to the criminal complaint, Han was removed from the US on September 11th. quote, allegedly attempting to smuggle biological materials under the guise of research is a serious crime that threatens America's national and agricultural security. Pam Bondi said in a statement on November 5th. I'm sort of seeing if I can find where the penny drops here. Like, what's the danger? Generally speaking, this policy should exist, but for nematode worms, I don't know. Let's see if they talk about it. Quote, we will remain vigilant to threats like these from foreign nationals who would take advantage of America's generosity to advance a malicious agenda. It sounds good, but I don't know if that's really worth doing. Yes, I'm aware of Cao Cao, pronounced Cao Cao apparently, but are you aware of his son, Cao Pi? Real Dynasty Warriors characters, by the way. Shipments by Zhang Fengfan and Zhang Zhiyong will all came to the US on J1 visas as scholars at the University of Michigan, according to the criminal complaint. Bai arrived in the US in August 2024. His roommate Zhang Fengfan arrived in September 2023. Zhang Zhongying arrived in September 2021. On March 5th this year, a UPS shipment from Han, which was addressed to Bai's apartment in Ann Arbor, Michigan, was intercepted and found by the US Customs and Border Patrol to be improperly manifested as DOC. The criminal complaint stated the shipment included a handwritten note listing 28 DNA molecules or plasmids, 4 of which were related to C. elegans. That's weird that they were the same species. Prosecutors said that, well, related to. I mean, DNA is sometimes consistent between species. I don't know about that. Prosecutors said the UPS shipment was the source of one of the 3 smuggling counts to which Han pleaded no contest. On March 31st, CBP officers contacted Bai about the intercepted UPS package, but he was uncooperative and refused to speak to or meet with the officers, according to the criminal complaint. Well, that sounds like maybe a Chinese spy. Those with 3 gifts explain why nematodes are terrifying. They eat, and they drink. Yeah, thank you, Ginger. Aiding with the Prince Regent George posting. China uses all its citizens as spies. Yeah. All, I don't know for sure it's all, but I've heard that it's pretty much all, possibly all, yeah. And the idea that the only people that can get out of the country in China are foreign agents. Wolf, he was on the right team. I always played as Dian Wei, the guy with the big axe. Or there was a spear guy in the blue team, I think it was called Wei, that I also sometimes played as. They were the best ones. Those games were fun. It's literally Chinese war simulator, carving your way through thousands of fucking peasants who just stand there and wait to die. And then Lu Bu hits you. In level 2, Lu Bu hits you. But no, I got good enough that I could just beat him every time. I think Dynasty Warriors 2 on PS2 was the one I played. And then also there was one on PSP, which is also fairly good. Haven't played any since those, though. Dian Wei. Dian space WEI was the name. At least some nematode worms will harm plant roots, causing early wilting and undergrowth. Well, maybe that's what they're doing then. Nematode worms destroy crops, harm livestock, and are responsible for a bunch of disease. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. In that case, good. Yes, continue stopping this. I worry how many times it has not been detected and prevented. Samurai Warriors. Yeah, okay. I was sort of after, specifics, detail, craft the expression. Just state it plainly. Anyway, next up, let's do this one. So, okay, Elon Musk now has $1 trillion in his bank account, says this Twitter user. He says that's 1,000 times $1 billion. He could give every single human on Earth $1 billion and still be left with $992 billion. Let that sink in. Yeah, no lie detected. Moving on to the next story. Terrifying, really, Emu, that anyone does the math this badly. So no, this guy is clearly joking, but he's not just joking about the how much you could give every single human. Although, interestingly, with $1 trillion, you could give every human like what 160 quid or something, something like that. If you limited that to in the West, it's still a lot. Like 300 million roughly in the US. So what's $1 trillion divided by 300 million? That much you could theoretically give. However, there's many reasons that would not happen. Many reasons that's not possible. So not only is his maths a joke, but also the initial statement is a joke. Elon Musk does not have $1 trillion in the bank. However, an interesting thing has occurred. Tesla shareholders approve a $1 trillion pay package for Elon Musk. But you said he doesn't have $1 trillion in his bank account. Well, there's two reasons that this is not quite that simple. So Tesla shareholders approved a massive new compensation package for Elon Musk, potentially worth up to $1 trillion, with more than 75% voting in favor at the company's Austin annual meeting. Now, the question of, is this just? Is this right? I'm not making such a judgment on. I know that Quattro recently has been talking a lot about how public companies are a sort of bad idea. And this may be a good example of it, actually. But let's read on and see exactly why this enormous pay package has been promised. So it's a moonshot, this one. They say, as noted earlier, the full compensation would only be delivered if Musk vaults the company from its present value of $1.1 trillion to $8.5 trillion. A figure that exceeds the current combined market values of Meta, Microsoft, and Alphabet, the filing says. So not very likely. Not very likely. He'd have to 8 times the value of the company. But if he does, he gets a big fucking payout. Yeah, it is something like that, Aiden. Indeed, John Wick. The reason why taking your company public is suicidal is all because of a single court case by Dodge against Henry Ford. Yeah, you've talked about that before. That one case of ruling spelled the end for the West. If foreigners can invest in your company, even through a proxy company, without you being able to stop them, I'd say that's pretty bad. Yeah, and that's a pretty good reason to keep companies private. So, continuing. So yes, 2 reasons is not quite true. The first reason is it's only if he does something that's maybe unachievable, probably unachievable. The second reason is the compensation, okay, we'll get to it. The compensation package also includes a set of production goals, including 1 million robo-taxis in commercial operation and the delivery of 1 million humanoid robots over the next 10 years, according to the securities filing. The decision, celebrated by Musk on stage alongside Tesla's humanoid robot, signals support for his vision to expand beyond electric vehicles into AI and robotics. The vote followed intense debate with major investors and proxy advisors like CalPERS, Norges Bank ISS, and Glass Lewis, opposing the plan as excessively large, while others, including Charles Schwab, concerning, argued it keeps Musk aligned with shareholders. I don't know whether this is right or not, really. I don't know enough about the thing, but it would certainly encourage him to do something that might be good for the species or might not be. I don't know, but it's certainly going to encourage him. So I'm not sure if he's going to say it here, but there's a important thing to note, which I'm just trying to see if they've written here. Okay, so there's a lot of like milestones they have to get through. Okay, I don't think it's going to say it, but I did read at some point earlier that the amount that he's being given, it's not like it's fucking $1 trillion in cash or something. It's like it's a pay package supposedly worth $1 trillion. So he's not going to get $1 trillion transferred to his bank account. I don't know exactly how it works, but that's what it is. So what you might see is Tesla suddenly gets a hot poker up its arse to get out there and make some money, which may be good or bad. Either way, no, Elon does not have $1 trillion in his bank. But if he did, he could actually give a notable amount to everyone in one country. Because hold on a second. What is so if we do 300 million. We need to do so it would be we're gonna have to do if we reduce it by 1 million, that would be down to 1 million divided by I think it's about 360 million in the US. So yeah, my maths might be completely fucking wrong here. I don't know, but if Elon Musk had 1 trillion in cash, which he's not going to, but if he did, and if he could work out a way of doing it, he could give every single US citizen $2,777. Or every UK citizen, $14,492. But of course, that's not something that's possible for several reasons. But what would he want in return, asks Nachos. Fair question. We won't need to find out, though. Cybertruck 2 coming soon, yeah, possibly. Right. Next story. How far through the stream are you? 2 hours. So we'll go for roughly another half an hour, I guess. Now, just if you don't find a story you want me to use the JF voice in, then we can reserve another short excursion of JF for next stream. So let's continue. Here's a fun quick one. Yesterday, various swastikas smeared in human blood were found around Hanau. Politicians lined up to denounce right-wing extremism. Today we learn that the police have found the offender, an extremely drunk Romanian man. Not a Jew, apparently. But this guy was not doing it for hate, he was doing it for keks, by the sounds of it, because he was fucking drunk. Blood swastikas in Hanau. Politicians condemn right-wing extremist act. Then a drunk Romanian is arrested. So, you might be thinking, oh, it's terrible. It must be this fucking colossal blood mural, like a satanic cult ritual, smeared on a wall with the words, Deus Vult for the white race, destroy all the, etc., etc. Well, no, actually, it's this. A little bit less impressive. A little bit less impressive from the Romanian gentleman in question. Smeared is the correct term.
I argue he picked a great car to do it on, though. A good old fix it again, Tony. I mean, Fiat.
Yeah. Shame it wasn't a Volkswagen.
That would have been even funnier. However, said man would be being hunted down by the German police.
Maybe. So yeah, so fucking lazy, says Jadev. We have the legendary failed swastika here on the right, which is weird because he got the swastika roughly correct on the left as well, and then the middle isn't even a swastika; it is just a cross. I can't believe V would do this, says the normal fella. Utterly H1B visa behavior, yeah. It was V. Can we pay to do the JF voice the entire next time you speak to Die? Sure, if you can get her to come on stream. Oh no, the horrors of the potential for you telling me to do the JF voice for an entire Outer Wilds Die commentary stream. That would be quite funny. I can't believe V's toddler associated drawings are Somnus. Yeah, there's there it is, Aiden. So yeah, that's the smeared swastika by a drunk Romanian man. The commenter does say here, strictly speaking, these are of course left-facing Buddhist swastikas, a difference likely lost. I know a drunken Romanian. I do like his sort of non-partisan, nuanced, and light-hearted perspective on this. We need you on the stream of discipline. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure I should go for that. Save it for when Di and I are here together. Yeah, possibly. Hail Hitler. Come beat Uslu. Drunk Romania is a tautology. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, now, bad news over. Bad news, there's so much hate in the world and so many Romanians. But I have some good news for you. Because ceilings are being shattered, milestones crossed, and Rubicons dried up. Mamdani announces all-female transition team. My God, so inspiring. Chat, press 1 if you are inspired right now. Women in positions of power, shouts Nachos. A woman. That's weird, no one seems to be inspired by this. New York City Mayor-elect Zor.
I'm opposite of this. I'm opposite of inspired by this. I'm terrified of this.
Despired. Zoran Mamdani announced on Wednesday that his transition team would be all-female. Quote, last night we made history, and today we begin the work of making a new administration. Following Mamdani's substantial victory in the city's mayoral election on November 4th, outgoing New York City Mayor Eric Adams will begin handing off power to the mayor-elect's incoming administration. Mamdani said that during the transition period, his team would work to build a city hall that delivers on the promises of our campaign. Eating food with hands and smearing it all across the room. He says to make New York City affordable and to make it accountable to the people it serves. Yeah, no amount of socialism will make it affordable. That will make it less affordable, aggressively. He says the article says, several of the women announced on Mamdani's transition website as co-chairs of the transition team are Democratic Party insiders, particularly within New York City politics. That's not surprising. Mamdani said these figures were chosen on the basis of excellence, integrity, and a hunger to solve old problems with new solutions. Yeah, they're the most corrupt. They're the most weak and useless and feckless that you could find to not challenge your power. They're the ablative layer, aren't they, Mamdani? Maybe, I don't know. A lot of these people are true believers, but any given one of them might not be. And Mamdani, I'd say more likely isn't. Members of the transition team include former Federal Trade Commission Chair Lena Khan, former First Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer, United Way of New York head Grace Bonilla, former Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services Melanie Hartzog, and political consultant Elana Leopold. As you can see, there's also something common with the women on screen here. The one on the left might be white, or she looks Hispanic potentially, but then brown, Asian. So probably a lot of them are non-white as well, if not possibly all of them. Although if that were true, he would have said that, wouldn't he? Nacho says, ugly. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So, I don't think there's much more to read on this, to be honest. The rest of this is just catch up, I think. He would attempt to Trump-proof New York. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, well, you can't Trump-proof the federal government. It's the federal government, at least when they're doing something justified. So yeah, that's that. Fucking cringe. I don't. It's not something I would gloat about. I don't like to gloat anyway. But any American that's mocked London and the UK for having Sadiq Khan, well, there you go. It's not much different, is it? Arguably worse. Yes, I know it's not your capital, but it's pretty close to it. It's a financial capital anyway. Right. Ghost says Nacho thinks Lou is ugly, confirmed. And Nacho says, I wouldn't say he's ugly, just not my type. Well, you know what, Nachos? Men so rarely get compliments that I'm going to count that as a compliment and I'm going to be happy for days. Let's move on. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, just fucking look at her, just said fighting a war against drug cartels is unlawful because it would violate the rights of drug traffickers and it would be fascist. Let's break that down. The drug traffickers have no rights in US standards. They're not US citizens. They're foreigners. If you're talking about international rights, I would like to initiate a loud bout of laughter in your face. Unfortunately, as much as it may sometimes be desirable that those be enforced, they aren't really enforced. Unless they are, but they're not being. So there you go. Secondly, you can easily argue that they're foreign combatants. and they're terrorists, so yeah, fuck that as well. And third off, with fascist, 1, no it isn't, and 2, it wouldn't be illegal even if it was. Just bafflingly retarded. Quote, returning to the war against the narco is not an option, she says. First, because it is outside the framework of the law. I don't think it is. And then she says, I said or have said on several occasions, it is permissible to kill. It is permission to kill without any trial. She said, war. Are you aware of war? What's happening now is not far off war. And I think probably just, it's narco smuggling and terrorism, probably with state sponsors. So yeah, it's pretty much war. As I said earlier, ideally they would be processed like through the peaceful and paperworky process and then punished duly, even if it is execution. But you don't always have the luxury to do that. And you don't owe them that. They're foreigners to the US and they are engaging in an action which is severely harmful to the US internally, and also, of course, as a combined unit, supported by foreign nations who are hostile or at least adversarial to the US. No, I'm sorry. Fuck you. So we could try listening to her, but it's likely to be the same thing we just heard.
Regresar a la guerra contra el narco no es opción. No es opción.
Yes, says opción. Yes, says opción.
Porque está fuera del marco de la ley. Todos estos de la derecha que se llenan la boca de las palabras Estado de Derecho y defienden.
Rule of law applies to people committing crimes, like the narco-terrorists. And the leftists that you would support, who are being paid on a massive scale to organize into riots and protests against the enforcement of laws old enough to be in the fucking Constitution. Thank you very much. Never mind the rights of their victims, as Odysseus says, yeah. EBS says prisoners of war are still a thing. They can be taken and processed as normal when the opportunity arises. It's not required, though. Yeah, agreed. Yep, I'd agree with that. All right, next thing. I've got so many fucking stories here, chat. So many fucking stories. We're not even going to get through a third of them today. Oh, yeah. For the last 2 streams, people have been asking me to talk about the ostriches. I don't really know what the situation is, but we'll go over it briefly. This is a video of, I believe this is the Canadian government shooting a bunch of ostriches.
You can hear the yelling as CFIA spook and chase ostriches all around, aiming them into the kill pen. Oh man, this is gross. Why are they all male? This is absolutely disgusting. Yeah, chasing birds down the chute. Birds running. This is absolutely disgusting.
Once they were there, they then shot them one by one with a marksman. I don't really know why. The claim by the government is that they are infected with something. What I've heard from people in chat is that the farmers who own them have volunteered to pay out of pocket to have them checked for that something because they say that they are cured of it. That they don't have it anymore, not cured, but they've got over it. They're not infected anymore. But the government insists on killing them anyway. There's a lot of things you could infer from this, a lot of things you could discuss. A lot of people are, when I was talking to people before the stream, I got the impression that they, understandably, because this is, on the surface, it looks very fucking evil. They suspect that there's some sort of conspiratorial reason to do this, some sort of dark, hidden reason to do this. But I would say it's not really clear what that is. If there is one. Now, there might be one. I'd like to suggest 2 other options, though. Well, I suppose they sort of combine it to one. Bureaucratic incompetence.
If you like.
Bureaucratic incompetence that has led to this just being the thing that you do. There's no way to get around the paperwork. The paperwork's already signed. You can't just say, well, look, I'll pay for the test myself. No, sorry, paperwork signed. That no one in the process cares enough to do anything to stop it. That's what I would guess. Now, Ginger may have just jumped the gun and talked at my profound moment, but perhaps he knows more about this than I do. So, Ginger, go ahead. What have I missed?
So, the reason that is being proposed as the official reason is effectively these birds all had bird flu. We can't be sure that they still don't, so therefore they must all die to stop it from spreading. The reason why that's retarded is because these birds had bird flu. These birds survived bird flu. These birds have then proceeded to reproduce and prosper for several years. This means they have a genetic immunity to bird flu, and the farmers who owned the birds were offering the whatever companies or institutions would be willing to do so the ability to come over, take DNA samples and even individuals from the flocks in order to study why these creatures survived the bird flu. If it were possible that they survived the bird flu, that information and knowledge could be used to create wide-scale immunity throughout other avian populations across species for the purposes of eradicating bird flu as a potential pandemic vector in the future.
Few issues I'm seeing with this.
The government heard this as a potential and said, no, we're just going to kill them all anyway.
Few issues I'm seeing with this. Firstly, I did mention earlier before the stream that if they had bird flu and had just got over it, then they may still be infectious even if they're not symptomatic. And that is true, but if it's been years, then no, it's not that. Secondly, that my theory about it being bureaucratic incompetence could still be true, that once the paperwork is signed, that's it. But this isn't Germany. I wouldn't expect them to be that rigid, but it's also idiots and bureaucrats, and maybe they are. And people without conscience in these places, because that's what an incompetent government pushes towards. Third thing is, okay, we have a dark motive. The dark motive is we want we want your livestock, whatever, to be vulnerable to the flu for some reason. Maybe for China's benefit. Maybe just so that the birds can be harmed more easily. Fourth point, though, I doubt it could be used to produce a cure, except for just this year, because flu is, by its very nature, very quickly adapting. So it's likely that next year's flu or next whatever's flu they wouldn't be immune to it. But this could still help a number of birds or whatever animals, potentially, if this is a cure. But if it's been years, I suspect that there'd be a new permutation of the flu by now. So maybe not.
The reason why that doesn't quite work, what you just said, is because human flus do evolve on a rapid basis because of the nature of how human populations intermingle and travel about, and generally speaking, act as a very efficient humanity as a whole is a very, very efficient petri dish for allowing viruses to rapidly mutate. However, isolated avian populations very rarely have individuals travel from one population to another due to the nature of how farms work. As a result, non-human flus tend to evolve far, far more slowly than what than what human flus do.
Fair enough. So yeah, the cure might last a lot longer then. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Does seem like that's wildly unjustified then, what they've done. But as I say, it could still be bureaucratic incompetence and rigidity rather than malice on behalf of possibly China or possibly someone who wants to weaken farmers. But then we know that Western governments have been for years trying to weaken farmers. So it could just be that. I mean, it could have nothing to do with the bird flu. It could just be that they want to shoot farmers' property for some reason. Like, this is just an excuse to shoot farmers' property and nothing to do with the fact that it has a cure.
If I may for a moment, the reason is that the Canadian government has openly declared war on all farmers. They are doing everything in their power to fuck with farmers on a constant basis. They do this regularly. They screech autistically, my bird flu, my bird flu, my bird flu, fucking regularly. And then it comes out, guess what? It wasn't actually a fucking problem to begin with, because it never is. Oh, what's that? Few birds get sick? Okay, well, they get better. The weak ones, they die off. And you know what? Oh, what if it jumps to humans? Well, you know what? I want my fucking boomer remover that I was promised 5 years ago to happen already. It's time to let nature take its course, because guess what? We don't need geriatric politicians anymore. We don't. Everyone universally agrees that when you hire geriatrics, you're going to get a lower quality of work. They're not as capable. They're not with the times. They're stuck in their ways. And you know what? For some reason, we get them exclusively in politics now. Time for a change.
I can understand where you're coming from. The Took says it's the government showing people that they can do this to you. Rarely would the reason be that sort of shallow, that surface level, but that's probably also in there as a factor, yes. But I imagine there is more to it behind that, even if what's behind that is bureaucratic incompetence. But yeah, either way, it's not looking good either way. As I've said before,
the farmers to throw out their food that they make in excess, so that we artificially limit our food supply to drive up prices further to price out the poorest people. You know, there's only 2 countries in the world that do it to this scale. One of them is North Korea. Go.
So there is another point worth pointing out here, and this is squarely within the tent of tinfoil hat territory. But what is interesting about this particular case here is that these individual ostriches have been able to produce offspring that, as far as I'm aware, were also immune to avian flu from birth. So in other words, they had managed to genetically pass on immunity to avian flu to their offspring, which is, as far as I'm aware, fairly rare as an incidence. That's a very uncommon thing. And if this had actually happened, and then the government wiped out all instances of this particular trait, this particular genetic adaptation to avian flu, what this tells me is that the only reason that is not just simply baked into direct malicious or incompetent government bureaucracy, the only reason that they could have for wanting to slaughter these particular birds is to ensure that traditional treat the symptom, not the cure style of pharmaceutical practices is allowed to perpetuate, due to that being a more efficient moneymaker for pharmaceutical companies.
I was wondering that, yeah. That probably could be a cause as well, yeah.
Yeah, they are very much owned by Big Pharma. Considering the deals that they made in secret back during 2019 and 2020, we know for a fact that they are. And they still refuse to even talk about the details of any of that. To this day. We have no answers. There's no transparency, no accountability. And we're just expected to sit back and let it be inflicted upon us. How the average Canadian hasn't just shot their local politician will always baffle me.
Well, all Western countries are in a kind of a bad state right now. But the one that I see is most likely as ending up using violence to solve its problem is Canada. Great to say.
It's probably the most statistically likely, even more so than America right now, because at least America has political solutions.
Yeah.
We don't have any avenues to fight back peacefully. Peace is no longer an option.
Yeah.
And they've made it so.
In the US, like, think what you want about Trump and not being enough on his own, whatever. There is at least a political avenue that has found some success. In the UK as well, there's some hope for the Reform Party, as much as that may not work out. And if it doesn't, we may be in a similar situation here, but there's at least an avenue, the potential there. So that's my washing machine finishing. Not my smoke alarm beeping. France, I don't think there is much, because Le Pen has been kicked out of the picture. They might be pretty fucked as well. Germany, they've at least got the AfD, but they keep trying to get rid of them. So I think they're in a worse spot, arguably, in the midterm, maybe long term as well. There's other countries where it's mixed as well. But Canada, the PPC, as far as I know, is way down. It's pressed right down in the polls. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and more government dominated, and more demographically worse as well. So I think Canada's the one where, prediction, not request, where I expect it will come to violence to solve it.
I mean, what other alternative is there? It's either we get annexed, which requires violence, or we take the country back by force, which will require violence.
There's one option that doesn't require violence. There's one option that doesn't require violence that might actually happen, which is secession followed by voluntary annexation into the US.
Well, okay, so for my province, Ontario, that is never going to happen because it is the capital. How do you secede from yourself? How do you do that? You can't, is the answer. So ultimately, you still have the fundamental problem. And that fundamental problem is not going to go away unless you burn the leeches. They will not let go otherwise.
I agree that in the central provinces, the ones that won't separate and annex, they won't secede, that you still need to solve the problem one way or another, yes. But with that secession, there'll be so much of an upheaval, it may become inevitable anyway. It may become structurally inevitable that the governments will collapse or change.
Well, see, the government effectively has already soft collapsed. Nobody really knows who's in charge anymore. Even within the government, it's complete chaos. All that there is left is the illusion of governance, because we don't actually have any social contract anymore. It's just whatever the nebulous voices of on high say happens, but even then, how? We don't know. Nobody seems to know. Everything's in complete disarray. Even the most basic of departments can't function correctly.
Here's what I think might be interesting. A secession and annexation saga with Canadian states and potentially becoming part of the US or separate countries or whatever. And a saga of that where no violence happens, and yet regions change hands several times, and through diplomatic, economic, and just fucking raw, this is the thing now, we're declaring it. That eventually the solution will be arrived at with no one actually doing any violence. Because usually secession leads directly to violence. But especially with it's a fun idea. Especially with the stabilizing force of the US right nearby, it might be that this is the only times in history where secession doesn't lead directly to violence. It leads to other forms of attack, but not a violent attack. If one region secedes and says, we and those who secede with us are now Canada. You are name of founding name of capital province or whatever, and then maybe Quebec does the same thing and they become Quebec. Who's going to say which one is the real Canada? The US will probably have to recognize, every country recognizes whatever is the case, and then that becomes generally accepted. Whatever the US recognizes will become the case. So if all the regions except the capital region secede, one of them becomes we are Canada and one of them becomes Quebec, and the one that says we are Canada is just declares himself as such and aligns himself with Trump. Which one is he going to recognize as the real Canada? So as was said in chat, YHFNH, capital's move, it has happened. Could happen again.
Yeah, but I don't think that is likely at all. And the reason why is because the incoming race war will happen before we get to that point. Due to the massive demographic shift, that is even more of an inevitability, and even the normies are getting scared by it now. They don't know what to do, but they know deep down that they will have to fight back eventually. It terrifies them. So as a result, with that, it then means that problem is going to arise first. Then once that's starting to conclude, then the attention and momentum will be directed at the government who let them in the first place.
Yeah.
And by that point, the military is going to completely wash their hands of the affair. They will not fire on them. And we know this because they've been asked to multiple times throughout our history. And every time they tell the government, no, fuck you. So what they do instead is they fly in foreign mercenaries. Just like what happened during the trucker protests.
Mm. Yeah,
they
that did happen.
The unaccountable globalist mercenaries. That is who they go to.
If any of our Western nations do descend into wide-scale violence, ultimately, the right wing is probably going to win because the military will tend to side with them. And they have the most justified grievance anyway. So maybe the worst thing for Canada right now is peace and stability. Long term. Obviously, it's going to be horrible short term, but long term.
The best thing for Canada would be the nuclear holocaust of Ottawa.
I think I need to have a double do not crime. I need to have a double do not crime overlay for when I'm saying do not nuke millions of people, please. We are not
people. No. Communists are not people, legally speaking.
It is not the opinion of Cabal that nuking millions of people or otherwise is a good idea, officially.
There is no sapient or sentient life there. Do not worry. Nothing good has ever come out of Ottawa.
I'm literally speaking for myself, Nachos. It may be the opinion of some of Cabal's members, but the office, i.e. the official position of Cabal, is not that. No balls drop a rice cooker on the fuckers. Hey, it's not the official position.
That's correct.
He says if the boomers of Canada were in a room with Trudeau and Hitler had a gun with 2 bullets, they'd turn around and shoot their grandkids twice. Yeah, I've heard that one.
That's genuinely their outlook right now, because they cannot comprehend the destruction that their voting patterns and inability to have even a single scruple has brought. They cannot comprehend consequences for their actions, you see.
HFNH says nations have had dueling capitals during civil unrest. I could see it happening, and unfortunately, as I said, Canada may well go there. There's many ways it could go, and we've discussed some of them here. But I would hope for some of the less violent ones, but it might not be. It might be too much to ask.
See, the other thing as well is, okay, say we have another contender for capital. Where? Because all of the major cities are all completely captured by Global Homo.
Yeah.
There is nowhere to turn. Every single possible alternative has been captured. The entire country is a glorified open-air tax prison. And it's so bad that even refugees coming here from war-torn countries, they stay here for maybe a couple of months at most and usually end up returning because they realize this. They realize the reality of, oh, this country is a fucking scam. This is not a country, this is prison.
Well, that's a refreshing thing to end the stream on. Let me see if I can find one more story for us, chat. That will be maybe a little bit lighter. Potentially some good news here. Woke is being put away by the people. Nearly half of all LGBTQ plus characters will disappear from TV next season, GLAAD study finds. Due to series cancellations, 61% of trans characters will also be absent from TV programming. It says next season, so I wonder if it's of a particular show rather than of all shows. But yes, Aiden, put away by the people. Thank you for agreeing with me that it is the people's pressure on these big corporations that is leading to them running scared that they can no longer purport the ideology that they wish to and have to find something else. They have to innovate. They're being forced by the market, by people's desires and will. So the reports revealed that though LG whatever characters were up across scripted broadcasts, cable and streaming programming last season, the future paints a far less rosy picture, rosy quote unquote. According to the report, which tracked regular and recurring LG etc. characters that appeared during the 2024-2025 television season, queer characters increased across platforms by 4%, bringing the total to 489. However, the Thursday report found that 41% of those characters will not return due to series cancellations or endings, limited series formats, or a character's death or exit. Aiden, you are trolling yourself as much as you're trolling me. And I know you're trying to troll. But no, I'm glad to see you agree with me, Aiden. While this year's study marks an increase after 2 years of decline, it remains far below the 2021 to 2022 record high of 637 LG etc. characters on screen. Quote, there is a definite concern that it's not going to bounce back next year and see a growth just in terms of what's been announced up to this moment. Good. Someone told the Wrap, we have not had a ton of announcements or news about new series and returning series within the research period that would make up for some of these losses. Good. Transgender characters may be especially at risk as their right to exist has been called into question under the second Trump administration. You fucking bullshitters. GLAAD counted 33 trans... Well, there's that. GLAAD counted 33 transgender characters on TV this year, but only 4 appear on series that have been officially renewed. Though the tally of trans characters increased by 9 from the previous year. In fact, there were more transgender characters counted than in the previous study, but 61% of those characters will not return due to series cancellations or endings. Good. Good. Interesting how it's all sort of happening at once, but I suppose that's just the effect of the culture shifting. Queer people of color, they say, made up for 51% of the LGBTQ plus characters on screen, a slight increase from last year, but there were steps back for specific ethnic groups, including Indigenous, Middle Eastern, North African, and Black LGBT, etc. characters, each decreasing year over year. Fine. Do you know why this is happening? People who I'm talking to in this article, like, we have our arguments about why, but people aren't talking in this article. The reason it's happening is not that suddenly anyone's decided this is the case. It's not that, it's just hate. No, it's that the shows fucking suck. Because the correlation between people who care more about identity and people who don't know how to write fucking good shows is really strong. That's why they're being cancelled. Now, it's not just that, it's also because no one likes this shit anymore, and it's really coming to a head now. And there's probably also some amount of people at the top realizing, okay, it's time to stop, it just doesn't work anymore. Let's find some other grift, some other psyop. So it's all of those three things, yes, but the most on-the-ground reason, the vanguard reason, is that the shows fucking suck. Nearly a third of non-LG etc. Americans say that LG etc. inclusive media has changed their perception of our community. Ooh, yeah, but how? Sarah Kate Ellis, CEO and President GLAAD, said, today we are at a critical juncture with hateful rhetoric running unchecked from politicians and news media. What about your hateful rhetoric? And given a falsely amplified platform, they say it's not falsely amplified, it's democratically amplified. Even as the majority of this country overwhelmingly supports the LG etc. community, that is not true. It depends how you ask the question. If you ask, do you support them marching naked through the streets? I think most people will say no. If you ask, do you support them merely existing privately? Most will say yes. That is the correct libertarian approach in both cases, and most Americans would at least lean libertarian on most issues. What you're seeing, of course, is that you want dominance. And you're asking the questions as if you just want existence. You're fucking liars. They say with so many diverse, entertaining, and impactful series, you're being cancelled at an alarming rate. It is imperative that networks and streamers do not back down. Oh, I won't. I won't back down. You can be sure of that. Across the 8 major streaming services, GLAAD counted 372 LG etc. characters, an increase from the previous study. As for scripted broadcast, they're repeating themselves here a bit. Queer representation on linear television has continually declined according to the report. Good. Someone says they're doing so badly that We Was Doctor Who and Sheet drove Disney completely away from the BBC because it lost so much money. Good. It's too much to hope for, I think, that the BBC just suddenly start making good Doctor Who again, but stranger things have happened. Would be interesting. They filled themselves with too many ideologues. I don't think it's likely they can bounce back. Okay, good. I don't care. Fuck you people. That's it. That's it for the show. We're only about 2.5 hours in, as I said, shorter stream, but we should now have enough time because yesterday the end of the stream was 2 a.m. It was a little bit late to start a movie. Now it's midnight, which is a bit late for European viewers. But since it's midnight, there aren't that many European viewers around anymore. So we will watch the movie. We'll wrap up there. Thank you for joining me, everyone. And thank you to my hecklers, who are not technically guests, but who did help and contribute anyway. Thank you to the people that did contribute actual money. I should also give Cabal credit to them manually when I can. We'll wrap it up there. Hopefully, those of you who are watching on other platforms will join me in Discord, in Cabal, and we will watch stuff together. Hop in. And if you're on YouTube, do like and share the stream if you can. I suppose if you're on any platform, actually. It does help quite a lot to do that, so thank you. That's all. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.